Let's speak to Jhuma Sen. She's an advocate practicing at the Kolkata High Court and India's Supreme Court. Jhuma, thank you so much for speaking with us. Firstly, let's start off with why has violence against medical workers, and especially women, been such a difficult issue to tackle in India?
Hi. I think it's not just about violence against medical professionals. I think the issue it's much deeper. It goes wider than that. And there has been in the last protest of this nature that we saw was in 2012 at the aftermath of the Nirbhaya protest. And at that point of time, there was a committee that was formed, and it actually really went into the heart of why the whys and hows of sexual violence and the difficulty of tackling sexual violence in India. And sexual violence is not just an issue that is that is confined in the subcontinent, that is confined in India. It is pretty much global, and the scale of it is far-reaching. But in the aftermath of the Nirbhaya protest, what happened was we saw that the Verma committee, which was set up, it gave a series of directions and recommendations to make justice more accessible. And it also went far beyond that, not to just speak about justice becoming more accessible, but also to prevent and prohibit offenses of this nature, crimes of this nature. Now, what happens in such cases is that whenever there is a gruesome rape is very common, and not just in India, and it's across the world. But this is not the first very gruesome incident of sexual violence that is happening. That it has happened in the past as well. But every time there is a gruesome or a brutal, so as to speak, incident of sexual violence, the responses by the state has traditionally been very knee-jerk, by providing some protocol, by providing some law, and then again taking a step back. In this process, what happens is the larger work, the more difficult work of preventing and prohibiting sexual violence, that doesn't take place. So I think that is an issue that we need to address. We need to do a gender audit of sorts to understand that what has gone wrong, why are things not working, are our laws, my guess is, my opinion is that we have enough laws. We do not need more laws. But the issue is not just with having enough laws or having laws. The issue is about implementation. So, for example, in this particular incident, this case, the RG Kar issue, there has been when I heard about that incident, the first thing that struck me that this is a workplace issue. This is a question about not just security of the workplace as it is being very commonly being framed by the state, but it is also a question of safety and dignity, the dignity with which every woman, every working woman is able to approach and access a workplace with the dignity that she deserves, with the safety that she deserves. But that conversation is somehow getting lost in the cacophony of everything. So one way of dealing with this is that we do a sort of a gender audit. We take stock of why our laws, why the regulatory mechanism that exists, why are they not being implemented, or why are they not being implemented properly. We have something called a sexual harassment at workplace law, which is very commonly known as POSH law as well. And there the employer has a responsibility of not just redressing, but also preventing and prohibiting such occurrences. That is about sexual harassment, but we have to remember that that 2013 Act that came in, the sexual harassment at workplace law, that came in at the wake of this kind of gave a statutory recognition to what is known as the Vishakha guidelines. And the Vishakha guidelines came in at the wake of a brutal gang rape of a Dalit woman, where when the Supreme Court drew up this set of guidelines, putting a responsibility, some sort of a responsibility on the employer to ensure that the workplace is a workplace of dignity, which all women can can access. So that conversation, we have to take stock that why are we again back at where we were?
Laws in this sense. There's enough laws in India to prevent violence against women, but these incidents, as you said, they keep happening. So then what are the challenges in enforcing these laws? You mentioned a gender audit, but what about law enforcement?
Well, law enforcement, our track record of law enforcement has not been very great, and I'm being polite. We have when we think about law enforcement, we have to think of the immediate sort of the responders of the of a crime, that is the police, and police needs a lot of training, and they're not necessarily always very gender sensitized. We also need to think of the other arm, that is the judiciary. We need to take stock of what is happening in the sessions courts, in the special courts, in the fast track courts which have been set up. We need to take stock of not just the police, not just the judiciary, but also of lawyers, also of our public prosecutors, and also largely of defense counsel. There have been, and I'm not talking. This is not just opinion. I'm talking. There have been several studies on these which demonstrate that the implementation and the working out, the execution of some of these laws are not great at the stage from investigation to trial because of a number of factors, and lack of training, lack of adequate training being one of them. And training and supervision only happens when there is a sustained engagement with these laws. What has happened and what continues to happen, unfortunately, and it is not, again, I do not think that this is just very specific to India. This is largely a global phenomenon as well. Whenever there is a very gruesome, very brutal, something which is very, very, which jars public consciousness, whenever something like that happens, especially in the context of sexual violence, there is a response in the form of a knee-jerk response from the state by giving laws but not doing the hard work, which remains which is a bigger deal. Training of all professionals, of all personnel, from the investigating agency to the judiciary, to public prosecutors, to defense counsels, to even court officers. But it is again, it is not just about law, because crime is not just law, is just one way, one mode of dealing with or responding to offenses of crimes. We have to remember that it begins in society. So one has to go much deeper, far deeper, and think about gender sensitization in curriculum. Are they being implemented? Do we have, how are we designing our curriculum? So that training, that a woman is an equal citizen and who should be able to access her workplace with dignity, that comes with that kind of sensitization, and that begins at home.
So this clearly is a very complex, this is a very complex issue, clearly. There's so many aspects to it. As you said, it's more than just about the law. And you even pointed to education. Looking at what the Supreme Court is doing, it ordered for a national task force to be set up to help improve safety for healthcare workers. Do you think such a group can actually bring about real change? Will this be enough?
Well, to give you a disclaimer first, that I'm one of the advocates representing one of the parties in that current batch of petitions. So my opinion is, of course, going to will be tainted with bias. That said, my personal opinion remains that, personal and political opinion as well as professional opinion remains that that a national task force was perhaps needed for medical professionals, because the immediate issue at hand is safety and security of doctors, and there has been a large-scale protest of doctors, and it's not a recent conversation. It has been continuing for some time. During COVID, there was this discussion came up again that there is a bill that is pending. So it's a very complex question. But that said, the National Task Force is designed, the manner in which it has been the protocol, it has been set up. It appears to cater to only medical professionals, and medical professional, even very loosely understood, is not just doctors and nurses. It goes far beyond that. So we will have to see that how the National Task Force responds to those questions and incorporates a larger the larger sort of the medical workplace within its ambit. That is, I think, that is a first challenge. The second challenge is actually the main challenge, and that is, it is not just about the medical. It is not just about the doctors. It is this current, at present, what has happened, the RG Kar incident. What happened was, it was a case of rape and murder, and it happened at a workplace. So if we have to tackle that issue, if we have to respond to that, I think we need to look at the larger question of accessibility, the larger question of women's safety and security and dignity at the workplace. So that will, of course, not be satisfied. That is not something that can be tackled or responded to by a national task force, which is specifically geared for doctors. But it remains to be seen that what can be done in the interest of ethics and with my ethical responsibility and clarity. The petition that we have filed, and the intervention petition that we have filed before the Supreme Court, that seeks to set up a committee to do a gender audit of workplace, both public, all institutional spaces, both public and private, by a committee or a commission. So, and to do some sort of a gender audit of all states. So that is, I think that is, if something like that happens, in my opinion, that is probably one way to go. But really, this is a much more complex issue. It's far more complicated than it appears. So there is no easy answer.
Thank you, Juma, for speaking with us and for sharing your insights. We were just speaking to Juma Sen, an advocate practicing at the Kolkata High Court and the Supreme Court.